Hey, what's up guys? Kane here with XBLA fans. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the state of Pennant Race right now in Super Mega Baseball. I've seen a lot of threads on Reddit as well as some people talking on various other social media, kind of both very positive and very negative about certain aspects. So I kind of wanted to take a chance to talk about what the actual issues are with Pennant Race and whether or not those are things that are going to clear up over time naturally, or whether or not there's something that Metalhead actually needs to address. And I can just tell you now that I did have the opportunity to speak with Metalhead last week. They are aware of a lot of things going on, and they are keeping tabs of a lot of things going on, and they're going to try to make this the best experience that they can for players. Now, in my opinion, there are a couple flaws currently with the current Pennant Race system. So we're just going to start with the fact that, at least right now, I think it's very difficult for a new player to understand what matters. And that is, do I need to win games? Do I need to win games by a lot of runs? Am I worried about my rank? Am I worried about my division? Am I worried about my ego? There's all these different things that are kind of in your head, and you're not really sure which one matters at the end of the day. In my opinion, Metalhead has not done a good example right now of explaining the system to a casual fan just in a way that they can understand. And even then, the more hardcore fans are still struggling a little bit because they're kind of having to fill the gaps themselves in some areas. So what I mean by that is if I'm playing at ego, I don't know what I'm at right now, probably 75, because I kind of tanked it trying this weird cheese strat with overdogs where I kept trying to beam the pitcher. It didn't work, and I'm kind of happy about that, because, or not the pitcher, but the catcher. Because if I'd been able to injure the catcher to where they didn't have a catcher anymore, I was going to have some fun on the base pass. But I was just kind of trying to see if that would be a thing. But, so, for example, I'm at 75, I think, right now. I can't actually read it. The font's so tiny on my my monitor as I'm, talking over this. This is old gameplay footage. I just grabbed one from the other day. But the issue I have with the game right now is the fact that the skill levels are so diverse. And not only that, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not you're playing someone at your own ego. Now, from what I've heard, the odds that you're playing someone at your own ego are actually pretty good. It's very rare, from what I've been told, that you play someone, even at the higher echelons, that you play someone way off. If you're playing at a lower level, it's probably even more likely that you're playing someone near you, because I would assume the player base is kind of skewed a little bit that way, because I honestly do not believe there are that many people playing at 85-90. That just would blow my mind if the player base at 85-90 was bigger than the player base at, say, 50. So, for example, yesterday, I was on an 11-game win streak. I would say of those games, maybe 2 were actual people near my skill level. Whether or not they were on the same ego, I'm going to assume they were. All of a sudden, after 11 games, you hit this guy who suddenly, it feels like, cannot miss a pitch, no matter what you throw. Isn't going to swing at a ball. Isn't going to, do anything dumb on batting. But at the same time, the guy can't field worth crap. He looks like Kyle Schwarber on crutches. So, he's just kind of like humping around the outfield, just, practically falling over trying to catch anything. And you're like, this guy is clearly not that good, because this is not one of the harder elements of the game for someone who's played as much as this guy has. Because you see the ranks at the end, what they're put at. It's really hard to, in your own head, be like, is that guy at my ego? Because it doesn't seem like he would be. And that's where the game gets frustrating. So on that aspect, it would have been nice, personally, to see the ego. Now, I don't know if that's something that the average player would want to know, because I think as it is, it's a little confusing for a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people tell me that they don't even understand that the ego they're playing online is not the opposing person's ego, but it's their own ego. So, whatever ego I'm playing at is what I'm pitching at. It's what I'm hitting at. The other guy could be up or down a little bit. And I don't think the problem is the other player being up or down a little bit. I think the bigger problem is not knowing. So when you don't know and you hit one of those weird wall games where you're like, okay, this is finally someone who beat me. And you're like, is he beating me because he's better? And if he's better, that's awesome. That gives me something to strive for. And I'd like to know that personally. But if he's actually worse than me and is just higher ranked than me, that's kind of dumb. And that's where it's a little confusing right now, because of the fact that I've seen players who have told me that they're playing at, 60 ego at a high enough rank that, they shouldn't be that low, in my opinion, because of the fact that the current division system has no association with what ego you're playing at. So just because you're at legend doesn't mean you're necessarily the top tier of ego. And if that's not the case, that hasn't been expressed very well at the time. Because I know a lot of people are playing the game and they're just kind of like trying to get their rank up. And they're trying to win as many games as possible. And right now, the best way to do that would to be a player who could be playing at 90 or 80, but playing at 60 instead. And yes, you're going to go up gradually, but honestly, your ego doesn't go up that much that quickly. So, like, I tanked my ego pretty quickly doing that overdogs thing. But at the same time, my ego hasn't gone back up as quickly as it went down. Now, part of that was probably the fact that during those games, I wasn't hitting that great. And that's what I mean by it seems like there's a little bit of a system right now where they are trying to kind of get certain outcomes on the stats and not just outcomes on the win-loss column. And if that's the case, that hasn't really been explained to players because, like, for example, when I beat a player at Legend, I only gained, I want to say like 6 or 7, points, maybe 9. But I've beaten people who were unranked and gotten 15 before. Like, that doesn't feel good to someone like me. Because I sit back and I say, that guy, like this guy right here, the guy I'm playing right now is a good example. This guy is not very good. I don't mean that to make fun of him, but you're seeing tons of dumb mistakes, and this is not even a well-played game by me. I mean, I think he left his pitcher in after I nailed him. That's all you really need to know. Some of the fielding stuff has been kind of eh. But I mean, that's what I mean by this. So, like, every once in a while you'll play a game like this, and you're just like, this isn't one that feels great to win, but at the same time, it's worth more because I pounded the living crap out of him. This is going to be a run rule or a DC. I don't remember which. So it's going to be one of those games where you just completely destroy him. So there's obviously some issues right now with the clarity on whether or not certain things work certain ways. I made a video kind of explaining how I think they work, and you guys should definitely check that one out. I'll try to put it in the cards for this one. But that definitely does seem to be along the way it does actually work. So there's that issue. There's also the issue that I've seen some people post about online about the fact that, when you're in these individual pennant races, which I think is an awesome concept, that weekly refresh, it's pretty cool, but at the same time, you're not going to win those unless you're able to put down 60 games or so. So that's another example of where clarity would help a little bit. Because if winning the pennant race doesn't really matter that much, then I don't think you're going to have people complaining as much if they're going 19-1 but losing to a guy who went 60-10. Now, to be perfectly honest, I think the guy who went 60-10 is much more impressive than the guy going 19-1. And the reason I'm going to say that is because the guy going 19-1, his ego should continue to go up as he plays. He should continue to face better ranked players. He should continue to normalize until he finally reaches a point where he's winning closer to 50% of his games. That's how the system should eventually work. So that guy is playing well below his skill level. So that to me is not impressive. So like I don't think the system needs to be changed to favor the guy who goes 19-1. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of things we don't know about this game. Like, what's the size of the player base? How many people are actually playing Super Mega Baseball? And you got to remember that Metalhead has to worry about PlayStation 4 as well as Xbox and PC. It's not like they only have one platform that they have to care about. The Xbox has, I would assume, one of the bigger player bases, but I could be wrong. Because the Xbox had this game free with Games with Gold, you would assume that that kind of bolstered the numbers a little bit. But for all I know, there may be more baseball fans on PlayStation 4. They may end up having a higher percentage of people who like baseball. I know I always owned a PlayStation because of the fact that they had MLB The Show. But again, that could work the absolute opposite way and undercut it there. So they have to you know, kind of estimate their player bases. And that's why a lot of this stuff was a little funky when it first started, because of the fact that they kind of have to, you know, let it ride a little bit. They got to sit back and let some real-time data flow in, got to see some actual numbers and figure out how things are going to work. And that's kind of cool to me that, you know, like, at least they're listening, they're looking, and they're adapting. And that's really all you could ask for at this point. So, I mean, I think there's definitely some flaws with this. In my perfect world, what I would do is I would break it down so divisions have elo brackets and ego brackets. So what I mean by that is we already have 5 divisions, legend being the highest. I would make it so if you're playing at legend, you're playing at 85, 90, you know, somewhere in there, you know, and then I'd make some of the lower ones break down to where you're playing in, you know, 10 to 15 increments as well. So that if you're in that bracket, it's a 100% guarantee what the guy's ego is within a certain range. That's how I would like to see it work. Now, whether or not that's something that they agree with or something that they're going to do, I can't really tell you. But I can tell you that they are at least listening, and they are looking to tune the feedback, and that's kind of cool to see. I'm definitely really excited for the future of Pennant Race, because I have a lot of fun with this mode. I really do enjoy it. I sat back and played like 3 hours of it yesterday. So, like, it's definitely something I very much enjoy. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe. It helps us out an absolute ton, as well as sharing the content. Like, we want to keep making content for this game and for other games as well, and you guys really make it possible. So thank you guys so much, and later.